heard that you can use onion skins to dye yarn. Let's give it a try. So in my last video, I mentioned that I wanted to knit a pair of socks out of this yarn here, which is Delicious Yarn's Desert Tweed Light. Now the only problem is this yarn doesn't have any nylon in it. I did receive some really helpful comments from people giving me some ideas for how I can work around that. One of the comments was about using a nylon reinforcement thread while I was knitting, which was a great idea. But someone else also suggested maybe the obvious, which was to use a contrast heel and toe with a different yarn that does have nylon in it. Thinking about it, I want this pair of socks to have a contrast heel and toe, and I was thinking a colour that matches this orange here would look really nice. But I don't have any yarn in that colour. What I do have is this blank yarn. This is from Bendigo Woolen Mills. It's their sock yarn 4-ply fine merino. It's in the undyed base. So I picked up 3 skeins of this last year when I was getting into dyeing. So I did experiment a little bit with acid dyes. And I knew I wanted to work on some colourwork socks, and I didn't want to buy big skeins of colours that I was only going to use a little bit of. So instead I got some blanks with the idea that I was going to dye small portions of it sometime soon. I think that time is now. I want to take just a little bit of this, maybe 20 grams or so, just enough to knit a pair of heels and a pair of toes, and I want to dye it so that it matches this yarn. This sock yarn does have nylon in it, so if I dyed it to match, it would make a great contrast colour. And a little while back, I also learned that there are some other alternatives to acid dyes, namely natural dyeing. So you can use various plants to create natural colours, and one of the most common beginner natural dyeing techniques is to take dried onion skins and turn them into a beautiful bright yellowy orange colour. So I've been collecting some of the onion skins from my kitchen over the last couple months, only when I remembered, so really not that much. But I think it'll be just enough to dye myself a little bit of yellow-orange for these contrast heels and toes, and I think it'll also be a great way to experiment and just learn a little bit more about natural dyeing. So I'm going to take you to my laundry where I'm going to get these weighed and then into a dye pot and get them on the boil. So let's go. Okay, so first order of business is to weigh the onion skins that I've collected. I've got a little scale down here, and I'm just going to pile them on. Would you believe it's difficult to weigh onion skins? Yeah, I would believe that. This has got to sound terrible in a microphone. Okay. Alright, we have 15 grams of onion skins and a small dead bug, so that's good. Okay. So the reason for weighing the yarn is that based on the very little research I did about this beforehand, you should be roughly aiming to have 2 times as much onion skin as you have yarn. So I've got 15 grams of onion skin. That's not quite enough, but apparently you can use less and it will just make the colour a little bit less pigmented. So I think I'm going to stick with my idea to do about 20 grams of yarn and then just use this 15 grams of onion skin. So the ratio will be a little bit more like 3 to 4 in favour of the yarn. But we'll just give it a go and see what happens. I can always dye over it if it's not dark enough. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go grab a pot and a little portable stove and set it up here. And basically you just chuck these onion skins into the pot and then you bring it to the boil for about an hour and it'll leach out all its oniony colour into the water. So I'll go grab that and see you in a sec. So one of the several benefits of doing natural dyeing is that you can use your regular kitchen utensils to do it. So with acid-based dyeing, the dyes are quite toxic. I believe they have heavy metals in them. So you have to be really careful not to ingest any of it, which means separate pans, separate utensils, and gloves and all that stuff. But this is just onion skin, so, you know, if we accidentally eat some, it's not a big deal. So I'm just using my regular cooking pot. I'm going to chuck all the skin into here. Okay. Move that out of the way. And then I've got my hob. Cool. So let me set you up a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to chuck in some hot water. I don't know that there is a really particular amount of water that you're supposed to use. I don't think it hugely matters. So I'm going to do just enough to cover these, probably 3/4 full. And then, yeah, chuck it on to boil. Okay, that seems like enough to me. It's probably more like half full actually. I'm gonna go get some sort of utensil, but let's chuck it on. So I'm gonna put it on pretty high because I basically want this to boil for about an hour. So let's get that going. I'm gonna go grab a spoon, give it a stir, and then yeah, leave it to boil for an hour and come back and show you how it looks. I did not consider that this was going to boil down, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more water, otherwise we're definitely going to run out by an hour from now. Okay, much better. Okay, so while that boils, I just want to take the opportunity, and since the sun is still up, to separate out the yarn I want to dye. So this is an 100-gram skein. I'll need about 1/5 of it. And luckily this already comes in skein form. If this was in a ball, I would have to unwind it, which would be a huge pain, but it's not. So it should be pretty easy just to untangle these ties. Might need a pair of scissors, and then separate out 1/5 of it. So I'll take probably just about yay much off, find the end, snip it, and that way I've just got my 20 grams all ready to go. Would you believe that just yanking the yarn apart wasn't the right move? I apparently would. So I'm going to sit down inside and just give myself a little bit of actual time. And I'm going to gently encourage this yarn to separate from its parent. This is just another reason I need a yarn Swift in my life. But I think with a little bit of patience, and a good video on, I can get it done in just like 15 minutes. It's been probably 45 minutes now and this has gotten so dark. It's hard to show, but the liquid is actually brown. I reckon I'm going to switch it off now, let it cool a little bit, and then get to dyeing. Okay, and with that, there's really only one thing left to do, and that's dunk my yarn into this pot. So here goes nothing. Alright, I'll switch the heat back on and let this simmer for a little while. It looks like 10% like spaghetti. It's a good thing I'm not doing this in the kitchen, because that I reckon someone would eat by accident. So while my little yarn potion simmers away, I thought I'd just let you in on some research that I've been doing about why exactly onion skin makes a good yarn dye. According to the internet, it's because of something called anthocyanin. I think that's a color compound that actually makes the onion skins brown or yellow. And apparently onion skins also contain tannins, which are the same thing that's in tea and wine. And that combination of the two allows onion skins to have their dye bind to other things. You can use onion skins to dye all sorts of fibers, wool of course, but also cotton and silk. And apparently it produces different results depending on the fiber and also the pH of the solution. It's only been about 15 minutes, but I'm so surprised by how red this is turning. So for a point of reference, this is the yarn I'm trying to match. So this has the orange and the brown, and look how just like vibrant carrot orange red this is in comparison. So I think I'm gonna call it now. It doesn't need to be any darker. I'll transfer it over into the sink and then rinse it with some warm water and then gradually cool down the water. And then it'll have to go outside and hang to dry, I think, for about a day before we can skein it up. So let's do it. I'm going to use just a little bit of my wool wash, mostly just to get the onion smell out. Wow, I am so surprised by how well that worked. Okay, let's try this out and see what color it looks like in the morning. Good morning. I am beyond stoked about how this turned out. I can't believe it. Since I did this without any experience and without it following any instructions, and I was trying to color match another yarn, I am just so pleased with how this turned out. I think the color is incredible. It's going to make a great contrast for my socks. And yeah, it was a heap of fun and so quick. Like, I think all in all, I probably spent an hour or two on this project. So definitely going down the rabbit hole of natural dyeing. This is so cute, this little skein. I have a love for tiny little skeins. So this is 25 grams and this one's 100 grams. It feels a little heavy. I did probably go over 25 grams just a little bit. But it is still a little bit damp, so I'll probably hang it out and let it dry for the rest of the day and then weigh it again. But I just couldn't help myself this morning from coming out here and having a look. I'm just so pleased. I think the only thing left to do really is to cast on the socks and see how it all looks knit up together. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching me experiment with dyeing some sock yarn with onion. If you have any questions about natural dyeing, probably don't ask me because I don't know anything. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video with some cute color coordinating socks. See you then. Bye.